It has 2,000 lines of code. I'm not doing the coding, AI is doing the coding. Does it matter if I can read it or not? I can't read the code anyway. Like, you do still now make things harder for your AI because what you're worried about is finding stuff. And if you've got a file that's 2,000 odd lines of code and it's doing all kinds of functions and this and that, you know, it just takes time. Remember, AI has these conversations with you where they talk about context. Escaped potato. Lines and lines and lines of code. Then the challenge you've got here is that you're just filling up context faster. You don't need to open a file that's 2,000 lines of code just because you need to remove an import at the very top line of the code. It's just ridiculous. Why are you doing this to yourself? You, for future you, for another developer that you may end up eventually hiring because you say, I give up developing with AI myself. You're doing this to save yourself headache. Because what we don't want is massive frustrations and headaches and start buying these massive tubs of paracetamol to get you through your day. Let me give you an example of where you could say to AI, hey, how can we break up the code in a realistic sort of thing that you may come across? Let's say you've got a website and you have a contact form. Somebody fills in the contact form. You have the code generate an email that's a specific template that goes to the person who filled in the contact form just to say, hey, thank you for getting in touch. We'll be back in 24 hours. And then you get a copy of the email as well, saying, hey, this person contacted, there's a name, phone number, email, the message, blah, blah, blah. A lot of times what AI will do is the API file that does the contact will embed the HTML for the template inside the contact form code, the API file. You don't need to do that because the HTML template could be quite a lot of lines of code and you just don't need all that in one file. Something you could say to AI is, in this API file, now I use Brevo to send out emails from contact forms. I say, you know, in the Brevo API file that sends these emails out after someone fills in a contact form, don't put the HTML template email code in the API file. Put it in separate files for each of the emails that go out. So a separate file for one to the customer, separate file for one to me. And that has just reduced the lines of code in that API file by hundreds now, because well, it might be 200-300 lines of code for something basic. So if you've got 3 different things happening when a contact form gets filled out, well, there's almost 900 lines of code just in HTML that's sitting inside of an API file, which doesn't need to be there. Refactoring saves you a lot of headaches in the future. To be honest with you, I don't think